Hey, it's Top 5 Tuesday here on Main Street Sports Today, presented by the Tennessee Orthopedic Alliance of Columbia. That's Wade Neely. I'm Maurice Patton. We're coming to you from the Lee Company studios here in Columbia. Glad to be with you here for the next couple of hours discussing local, regional, and national sports. And some of those sports aren't very good right now, just to be blunt.
Cutting us deep early.
Well, you know,
Scrooge status early in the show. I like it though.
Yeah, well,
calling it like it is.
That's the only way to call it. Unfortunately, we are going to visit with the Blue Raider voice, Chip Walters, in the second hour of the show, catching up on things on campus. Tough doubleheader for the Lady Raiders and Blue Raiders over at Belmont over the weekend, but that's just kind of a blip in what has been an otherwise more than solid start for both those teams, which is more than we can say for the Nashville Predators. We're going to speak in the next segment with Ann KIMMEL of Penalty Box Radio as the Preds look to snap a 7-game skid tonight when Calgary comes to Bridgestone Arena. But hope does not spring eternal. You know?
It don't look good, partner.
It doesn't, but
and Ann is the eternal optimist.
Ann is the eternal optimist.
Even by my standards, she puts me to shame in terms of optimism. Because I'm on one foot in the grave almost right now.
But I will tell you, the last time we had Ann on talking about this team, and it was gloom and doom, and then they went out and defeated Winnipeg. So I don't know. We'll see. But we'll talk to Ann and try to get a feel for where this Predators team is and what's next for this Predators team. Also going to talk a little football, both of the professional and collegiate variety, and high school as well, I would imagine, at some point. So stick around for that. Little NBA news. A notable name maybe on the trading block in the association. We'll talk a little bit about that later in the show. Also, again, the winter meetings are ongoing down in Dallas. We will talk a little Major League Baseball from around that. Little men's and women's hoops action. And it is, again, Top 5 Tuesday. Wade and I will give you our top 5 best, most memorable bowl games in recognition of bowl matchups being finalized this past weekend. So yeah, we've got some stuff to get to that. It won't be all gloom and doom, but yeah, the tone has kind of been set, I guess.
Yeah, well, there's only way to change that is just dive into the show today because we had Simpsons football last night, which was electric, and so I'm just maybe you can call me burying my head in the sand. The Grizzlies are in second place in the Western Conference. It's not all like you said, doom and gloom. Things are a little rosy if you look in the right spots, I suppose.
Absolutely. So I guess let's go ahead and get started with the show then. Let's get into yesterday's results and today's schedule on the Rundown.
This is the Rundown.
To the Rundown we go. Here are some girls basketball scores from last night in our coverage area. Let's start with Fairview, who picked up a 49-19 win versus Battle Creek. It was Hickman County 40, Columbia Academy 34. Dayspring Academy squeaks by Knowledge Academies 41-39 was that final. East Hickman on top of Mount Pleasant 74-13. Huntland taking care of Culleoka 57-37. Trousdale County with a 62-22 win over Maplewood. McEwen downing Dixon County 57-47. Mount Juliet dispatching Marshall County 44-31. Nolansville 57, Spring Hill 19. It was Hume Fogg 47, Stratford 39. Summertown all over Murfreesboro Central Magnet 40-17. And capping your girls' scores from last night, Summit 55, Shelbyville 45.
In boys basketball action from Monday night, Fairview with a 59-38 win over Battle Creek. Columbia Academy edge Hickman County 55-53. Mount Pleasant with a 58-39 win over East Hickman. Culleoka defeated Huntland 80-56. Father Ryan 59, Father Ryan 57, Overton 39. Dixon County with a 76-46 win over McEwen. Marshall County downs Mount Juliet 75-61. Nolensville with an 80-54 win over Spring Hill. It was Hume Fogg 81, Stratford 51. Summertown with a 77-35 win over Murfreesboro Central. And Shelbyville edges Summit 44-41. Oh, also, National Football League action, Monday Night Football. I'm sure we'll talk more about this as the show progresses. Cincinnati 27, Dallas 20. Down at Jerry World.
Yeah, I was going to let you get that one. We got to twist the knife in the Cowboys any chance you get. So I'll leave that one to you there. On to tonight's schedule. On to basketball action. Double headers beginning at 6 p.m. Lebanon is at Blackman tonight. Columbia traveling to Brentwood. It'll be Liberty Creek at CPA. Shelbyville will be at Centennial. Kenwood is at Clarksville. DCA is at Clarksville Academy. It'll be Todd County Central. That's out of Kentucky, traveling to Creekwood. Moore County is at Culleoka beginning at 6. It'll be Glencliff at East Nashville at 6 p.m. White House Heritage at East Robertson tonight at 6. Nashville Christian is traveling to Easel Harding. Summit is on the road at Fairview. Santa Fe taking on Fayetteville tonight down in Fayetteville. It'll be Cane Ridge at Franklin. Lancaster Christian traveling to Franklin Classical. Good Pasture is at Friendship Christian. McGavock is at Gallatin. Lincoln County and Giles County flip-flop these from originally scheduled. Giles County will be on the road tonight down in, as I mentioned a moment ago, Mo, Fayetteville.
A lot of action in Fayetteville tonight.
Fayetteville will be popping tonight as that's halfway through your schedule for this evening.
There we go. Also, we got Joe Burns going to Greenbrier for a 6 o'clock doubleheader. Green Hill is at Hillsboro. Lawrence County hosting Loretto. Cheatham County traveling to Montgomery Central. Zion Christian is at Mount Pleasant. Oakland hosts Mount Juliet. Hendersonville is at Page. Baylor coming north to Pope John Paul II for a doubleheader. Providence Christian hosting Battleground Academy. Lipscomb Academy travels to Ravenwood. Watertown is at Red Boiling Springs. Smyrna goes to Riverdale. Siegel hosting Wilson Central. Summertown is at Spring Hill. Henry County goes to Springfield. Hume Fogg is at Station Camp. Stewart County hosts Sycamore. Rockvale is at Tullahoma. Columbia Academy travels to University School of Nashville. Houston County is at Waverly. Middle Tennessee Christian goes to Bell Buckle, taking on the Lady Feet and the Feet of Webb. And Macon County is at Westmoreland.
Girls basketball standalone action tonight. Mount Juliet Christian at Davidson Academy. All these games tipping off at 6 p.m. Rossview is at Dixon County. Franklin Road Academy traveling to Grace Christian Franklin. It'll be Laverne at Harpeth Hall at 6 p.m. tonight. Whites Creek at Independence. Trousdale County is at Lead Academy. Hunters Lane visiting Maplewood tonight. Antioch at Martin Luther King. Republic is at STEM Academy. Warren County at Stewart's Creek. And Knowledge Academies will be at Valor Collegiate.
In boys only action, 7 o'clock start for Davidson Academy at Mount Juliet Christian. At 7:30, Eagleville is at Cascade. West Creek travels to Clarksville Northeast, and Merrill Hyde is at Kip Nashville. All of those are boys only matchups at 7:30. Women's basketball action, Fisk goes out I-40 East, taking on Cumberland. That's a 7 o'clock tip. Men's basketball action in the Jimmy V Classic up at Madison Square Garden. Tennessee and the Hurricanes of Miami will get it going. Again, that's a 5:30 start. You can see it on ESPN. We'll talk more about that one later in the show. Also, Tennessee State goes up to Western Kentucky for a 7 o'clock tip. You can see that one on ESPN Plus. And on FanDuel South at 7, the Calgary Flames come to Bridgestone Arena taking on the Nashville Predators. Again, we'll be talking to Ann Kimmel of Penalty Box Radio here in just a bit for more on that one. Ladies and gentlemen, that is your rundown. Your top story, brought to you as always by the fine folks over at Piggly Wiggly and Neely's Mill here in Columbia. Be sure and check out their delicious daily deli lunch options available from 11 a.m. until 6 p.m. Also, their hand-cut meats and everything is cost plus 10% at the cash register. Piggly Wiggly, Neely's Mill, Columbia, bringing you our top story. Time Magazine announced its Athlete of the Year earlier today, and I'm not sure that it's a surprise. Caitlin Clark, formerly of the Iowa Hawkeyes, currently of the Indiana Fever, is the Time Athlete of the Year. And this is reflective of both what she's done on the floor and the impact that she has had on her sport, or sports, as the case may be. Indiana appeared in the most watched WNBA games ever on 4 different platforms, I guess: ABC, CBS, ESPN, and ESPN2. Her college championship games. Did they play in the championship game?
Didn't make it this year.
Okay. I guess this is from last year.
I've slept since then, as you like to say.
Yeah. This, according to this article, her college championship game between Iowa and South Carolina averaged 18.9 million viewers.
Lost to LSU and then lost to South Carolina.
Okay. In the finals both years?
Yeah.
Okay. All right. Second most watched women's sporting event in the history of U.S. television. I mean, it's no secret that Caitlin Clark moves the needle. Indiana's regular season finale against the Washington Mystics drew 20,711 fans in the seats, setting a WNBA single season record. The league's attendance jumped 48% from the 2023 season to the 2024 season. She signed a $28 million endorsement deal with Nike, the largest for a women's basketball player. I mean, I don't know who else was on a trajectory comparable to her this year.
Yeah, you mentioned it. Needle mover, ratings grabber, sport transcender in many regards. She's your pick. She did get a little, producer Mark flashed a little bit of the graphic. She got a little risque by Caitlin standards on the cover. She is in the sports bra, kind of stepping out a little bit. But to your original point, revolutionizing the game. We've talked about how the WNBA has been in desperate need of something to go its way. And they kind of catch lightning in a bottle with Caitlin Clark. And in a perfect world, she's going to be the focal point, I think, more often than not. But in a perfect world, this catapults the entire league and the sport of women's basketball in a nice direction, which I think we've already seen both at the college ranks and with other success in the WNBA this year.
Yeah, it will be interesting, as we swing into year 2 of Caitlin Clark in the WNBA, how this upward trend continues, I think, or if it continues. I don't know. But like you said, she's a needle mover and she's pretty much a trendsetter. Now, she's not doing this by herself, is she? I mean, the women's basketball game, she's kind of been the impetus to it, but there's got to be something else there. I mean, the Aces, the Liberty, the WNBA gave us a great championship series, gave us a great postseason that the Fever was only minimally involved in, actually going out in the first round. So I think as we look back, I think the WNBA has done a great job of taking advantage of her.
Oh yeah, for sure. And that's part of it, right? Is she gets the casual fan, and then your hope is that the league and their marketing arm and their PR team, they do the rest. They latch you in, they reel you in. You may tune in for a Caitlin Clark Iowa basketball game, and then boom, the next thing you know, 6 months later, you're watching the Lynx and the Liberty, and you're like, oh, okay, I really like this. So that's the goal. That's the hope, is that you can take these athletes, you can take these figures and use them to your overall benefit. To your point there. Yeah, the WNBA has cashed in, I think, and just signed a new, television rights deal. I mean, positive things are coming for this league that has really been kind of cast aside, rightly or wrongly, over the last 2 decades. And now finally starting to crawl out and really starting to flourish. We've talked about their expansion efforts as well. And I'm excited to see what's ahead, because it feels like this is a groundswell that is gaining steam with every couple of weeks and every couple of broadcasts that she's on, and that therefore the rest of the league is featured on.
And it's kind of that, what, a rising tide lifts all boats.
Yeah.
So
that's what it feels like. And like I said, the WNBA has that's the only thing, right? That's the only tricky thing, right? You have so many other stars that now it's up to you to make sure you market them accordingly. Anybody can market Caitlin Clark. She can do that herself. It's up to the league and it's up to the franchises to market everybody else and to cash in on those new eyeballs, because, she's basically throwing the lob for your attention, and it's up to the rest of the league to be able to flush it home.
no doubt. Let's take a break here on Main Street Sports Today, presented by the Tennessee Orthopedic Alliance of Columbia. When we return to the Lee Company studios, we'll be joined by Ann Kimmel of Penalty Box Radio, Ann K_Mama on Ice, telling us what's next for the Predators. I hope she's got her crystal ball out. Stay tuned after this. Whether you're an athlete or a weekend warrior, when it comes to your performance, don't settle for anything less than excellence. We're proud to announce that Mid-Tennessee Bone and Joint Clinic is now Tennessee Orthopedic Alliance of Columbia, where we are redefining sports medicine and orthopedics. Tennessee Orthopedic Alliance's team of expert sports medicine physicians understands the unique demands of your body. TOA Columbia specializes in personalized orthopedic care, offering state-of-the-art treatments for everything from sports injuries to joint replacements. Learn more at toacolumbia.com.
Step into the Lionel retail store at Opry Mills, Nashville, and you'll be captivated by all the magic of the 123-year history of Lionel trains. Whether you're already a train enthusiast or just getting started, Lionel will energize your love for trains. NASCAR fan? Come check out your local Lionel station to learn all there is to know about model trains and die-cast NASCAR collectibles. Visit nashville.lionel.com or call 615-455-9399.
Well, we went all out for you this year, didn't we, little girl? Yep, we got you what you wanted, with all the bells and whistles.
A brand new car?
Let's go check it out. Come on. We're here.
Oh my gosh, we're going to the garage. I got a car.
Yep, let's get in here. Let me show you what's going on.
Hey, Mr. and Mrs. Duggar, got your 18 SEER heat pump with the ultraviolet home treatment system.
I cannot believe it. Thank you.
Yes! Give the gift of clean air this year. Merry Christmas from the Busy Bee family.
Custom Stone Handler supplies over 600 distributors and suppliers with quality stone products. Along with River Stone, we produce and distribute over 100 building, landscape, and other bulk products. Our goal is to provide quality products, service, and partnerships to ensure our customers' success. We firmly believe that the measure of any person or company is how they treat other people and customers. Give them a call at 931-490-4990 or visit CustomStonehandlers.com.
With Lee Company technology, the best handymen are hands-off. Lee Company techs have been using visual findings and other smart technology tools for years to add transparency and virtually take customers along. You see what we see, whether we're in a crawl space or on a roof. With Lee Company, technology helps us help you, no matter what's happening in the world or at your house.
He shoots, and he scores!
Top 5 Tuesday continues here on Main Street Sports Today, presented by the Tennessee Orthopedic Alliance of Columbia. That's Wade Neely. I'm Maurice Patton. In our final segment, Wade and I will give you our top 5 best/most memorable bowl games. Stick around for that. Right now, we are joined by Ann Kimmel of Penalty Box Radio. And Ann, I apologize. Thank you for coming on with us. I hate that we continue to reach out to you and ask you about this bad Nashville Predators hockey team. Now, to be fair, it's not our fault that they're bad.
It's not mine either, as long as we're clear on that. We're great.
Yeah. We have to talk about this team just because they're bad and they are uncharacteristically bad, it feels like, based on everything that was talked about over the summer coming out of last season. And it's inexplicable, it feels like, but at the same time, it's got to be talked about. And, early on, it was like, well, they just got to get their feet on the ground. They brought a lot of new people in. They've all got to get acclimated to each other. I would think that we are well past the point of acclimation. What's wrong with this team?
That is the $1 million question. And kind of the way that I view this, when you try to identify a problem, you hear the old adage, if you hear hoof prints, think horses, not zebras. But what's going on with the Nashville Predators is zebras. This is actually a phenomenon. It's a hard one to watch, but it really is a phenomenon. It is inexplicable. I love that word. But I'm going to try to tell you what I think it is. I think it is a combination of a number of issues that this team has, because you're right. This team is too talented to be this bad. And they're really bad. They are the second worst team in the league. They are one of the worst offensive production teams in the league right now. And what was sort of going to be their calling card in the preseason was going to be the offense that they brought in. So it is fascinating. I think probably the biggest issue is the offense. This is a team with a lot of offensive talent, but they simply are not scoring goals. And in the NHL right now, if you cannot put up goals, you are not going to win games. And Nashville is getting offensive zone time. They are taking shots, but they're not getting them on net. They're not getting second and third chances like they need to. They're not generating high danger chances like they need to. And you're just simply not going to win in this league unless your team is scoring goals. I think you've got a lot of players right now that are struggling. It is well past time for the new guys to be more comfortable in this system. Andrew Brunette has made some adjustments. He's simplified things to help them kind of catch up and feel more comfortable. You've got top players are not playing well. And I think at this point, maybe the biggest issue has become a mental issue for this team, because the minute that you see them in a game get scored against, it's like you see this team, almost the body language tells you they don't know how they're going to get out of this. And I think at this point, the mental hurdle has become crippling.
And, it's almost like they are starting to snipe a little bit. Marchessault has had a couple of comments here of late. Is the locker room starting to fragment on top of everything else?
I don't know that I would say that it is fragmented, but it is frustrated for sure. I don't think there's a player in there that isn't frustrated with their own performance and collectively with what the team is just not able to execute on the ice. The Marchessault interview was very interesting. He talked about, I'm going out there every shift and I have to think about who's with me because the lines have changed so much. He did go on to say, look, if you want me in this role, I'm going to do this role. But you have to remember that that's actually a skill set. And we have players on the roster like Colton Sissons, like Mark Jankowski, where that is actually their skill set. That is the career that they've carved for them, to be able to hop up and down the lineup and play with different line mates. That's not an easy thing for every player to do, especially a player like Jonathan Marchessault, who had consistent line mates in Vegas. So I do believe that the locker room is extremely frustrated. I don't know that they're fragmented. I think that there are a lot of conversations happening among teammates. I think there are obviously a lot of conversations happening between coaching staff and players. I wouldn't necessarily say that there is division. I think there is a lot of frustration.
And you just mentioned the offense struggling. 61 goals through 28 games, lowest total number in the league. You got a minus 27 goal differential, which is also the worst in the league. Is there what can you factor or attribute this to in terms of just not burying chances? Is there one player? Is there a line? Is there multiple players or multiple lines to kind of that we can pinpoint the offensive woes on at this point?
It's basically everybody's fault, but when you look at this team, you really need certain players to lead this team out of the hole that they've dug. And last season, it was that top line of Forsberg, Nyquist, and O'Reilly, but those are three players that are still struggling to produce. Philip Forsberg hasn't scored a goal since November 11th, and this is somebody who is a high-skill, high-scoring player. He set the franchise record in goals last season. You need those players to step up, and they're all individually struggling to find the back of the net. And I hate the term snake bit because I'm kind of like, look, y'all, the net hasn't moved since y'all started playing back when you were 4 or 5 years old. It's the same size. It's in the same location, but there is an element almost of confidence that I think plays into this, where when you aren't scoring goals, you then tend to overthink. And you tend to, Andrew Brunette refers to it as gripping the stick too tight. And now you've got a bunch of players that are in that same boat, but you do need players to step up and get you out of it. And so for me, I'm really hoping Philip Forsberg is that guy. He's a put the team on my back kind of player. He hasn't been able to do it yet, but that's who we need. A Steven Stamkos, that's what his career, has been known for, this offensive production. Roman Jossi's sure trying. And UC Saros is literally doing everything he can to keep this team in games. But until they find the back of the net, this team is not going to win.
Yeah, absolutely. And you mentioned, Forsberg, he's leading the team in goals, but also to your point, he hadn't scored in a while. So, I mean, that kind of, to me, signifies that things are just not going right. The guy that is leading your team in goals is going on prolonged, especially by his standards, goalless droughts. That doesn't seem like a good thing. And I want to chalk it up to, just being snake bit, gripping the stick too tight. But man, at some point it feels like this whole, despite the crazy run that they went on last year, it feels like you can't bank on that again this year by any stretch. And I'm just wondering at what point the hole becomes too much that you have to start maybe thinking about the next move, essentially, whether that's a shakeup in some regard, whether it's players or personnel, coaching personnel.
Yeah, they really are missing their window. If you look at what they did last season, they've already missed some windows of opportunity. They did start in a similar situation last year. They were 5-10, but then they went in mid to late November on a 6-game win streak. We haven't seen that. In the stretch that we're in right now, they went 7-3. We are certainly not going to be able to hit 7-3 in this stretch. And so you've got to pick up games because you simply cannot bank on a team going on an 18-game point streak. That is very difficult to do. And we are getting to the point where the Predators are not going to be able to dig out of it. And so every game, tonight's game against Calgary, it really isn't, in a sense, a must-win game because not only does it have postseason implications, I agree with you. At some point, this is going to have implications on the roster. My suspicion is it could more likely have to do with coaching staff because there isn't a lot you can do with this roster to shake up the locker room.
And KIMMEL of Penalty Box Radio joining us here on Main Street Sports today, presented by the Tennessee Orthopedic Alliance of Columbia. And your last comment, more likely this is going to impact coaching staff than roster. We've seen three teams make coaching changes already this season, and two of them probably did not have the expectations coming into the season that Nashville did. Certainly the most recent change, as the Chicago Blackhawks made a change behind the bench. This is Andrew Brunette's second season. And again, there was a lot of movement over the offseason and with the season that they had last year. maybe the expectations were unrealistic. Maybe it was just that they got a bump from that 17-game point scoring streak, but there were expectations around this team that clearly have not been met. I'm asking you to get your crystal ball out, but I mean, how close are we to a coaching change?
I wish I could tell you crystal ball or not. And here for me is the wild card. I think under normal circumstances, in just a regular setting, you would be very close to a coaching change. The X factor is Barry Trotz's general manager, because Barry Trotz is a former head coach, and so he understands what these situations are like in locker rooms. He understands the challenge it is for a head coach to work a team out of a situation like this. And so I think he just naturally, as a general manager, is going to have a longer leash. You also have to remember that Andrew Brunette was his guy. He had John Hines under contract when Barry Trotz took over as general manager, and he would have stuck with John Hines if Andrew Brunette wasn't available. But Andrew Brunette was his guy. And so under normal circumstances, if this was me watching another team from the outside in, I would say, you know what, this game tonight against Calgary is sort of high noon. You really have to win this game, because your next couple of games are going to be Dallas, Colorado. Before Christmas, you've got Carolina. Yes, the New York Rangers are struggling, but they're still a better team than the Nashville Predators are right now. So you have to get momentum right now. But I come back to Barry Trotz hand-selected Andrew Brunette, and he hand-selected him to lead a youth movement. That's not really what this season is about. And so I just can't predict what is going to happen with this head coaching situation. And again, the contracts that they have right now with these players, it isn't like you can move Steven Stamkos's contract. It's not like you can move Philip Forsberg, to shake up the locker room. And I don't know that you want to do either one of those things. I don't know that either one of those things solve the problem. But if you want to make a move that tells the team, I am serious, you got to get it together, the coaching change is the easiest move to make. I just don't know that Barry Trotz is going to pull the trigger yet.
And, to that point, and the fact that Brunette is Barry Trotz's guy, literally, for him to make a move, is that an indictment of Barry Trotz?
I think you have to be really honest about those optics. It does not look good. I will say this. It's very hard in Barry Trotz's early tenure to say, wow, he has screwed everything up, because this fan base loved that he made a coaching change and moved on from John Hines. So that was wonderful. July 2nd, we were ready to rename this town Trotztown, baby, because he had signed these free agents. And even just NHL pundits across the league said, look, this is a guy who has made bold moves, and he's a candidate for GM of the year. Now, nothing has gone according to plan. And so it doesn't look great for Barry Trotz, but he is also this is a guy who is just getting used to the general manager role. And I also wonder if that may kind of sway him to stick with it and say, look, Andrew Brunette is going to lead the team out of this. They may not make the postseason, but they're going to build some momentum. They're going to make some connection, and we're going to bring in some young players with these veterans, and we are going to try to make something positive out of this season. But it's not a great look. The optics aren't great.
If that is the thought process, and if that is the thought process, it makes sense on a level. But if that is the thought process, would it behoove them to come out and say that?
Yes. I think the key to all of this, especially with a fan base that is as restless and disappointed as they are, and with a locker room that is as frustrated as they are, I think the key to all of this is going to be communication. And the one thing I will say about Barry Trotz is he is a communicator. He is very much a straight shooter. He will answer your questions. And I think if that is what he opts to do, if he says, look, I'm going to stick with Andrew Brunette and we're going to try to salvage something out of the season for next season for the future, he has to communicate that to the fan base. I don't know that the fan base will receive it, but I think he has to communicate what he's thinking. No matter what decision he makes with Andrew Brunette, communication is going to be key, because the expectation versus reality is so far off that explanations are needed.
Absolutely. And we've been talking macro for quite a bit. Let's go micro. What do the Preds need to do specifically, other than, well, score goals to beat Calgary tonight? What do you like about this matchup? What do you not like about this matchup? Second one, I believe, between these two this year.
Yeah, the Predators lost 2-0 to this Calgary Flames team last month. There are some things that could play into Nashville's favor, and I think the one that really needs to be the opportunity they grab a hold of is on the penalty kill. And you talk about scoring goals. I think that's the key to this for the Predators. Yesterday in practice, they spent a significant amount of time working on the power play, both the top unit and the second power play unit, because Calgary has one of the worst power plays in the league. Or penalty kills in the league. They rank 28th in the league. So there, I think, is one big window. This is a team that struggles to score at 5-on-5. If you can take advantage of the man advantage, not only is you're going to get you a goal on the scoreboard, which, heaven help us, that would be fantastic. But I do think that would build momentum for 5-on-5. I think if you get a goal, if you get one player going on the power play, I do think that's something that could carry over. I also think goaltending is going to be interesting in this game. Wolf had a shutout. Dustin Wolf had a shutout last time against the Nashville Predators. I think the Predators need to find ways to get second and third chances on him. I think they made it a little bit easy for him. And I think UC Saros has done absolutely everything he can for this team in net. If he does that again tonight, this is a game that Nashville should win, could win, but I don't know if they will win it.
Hopefully we'll win.
Hopefully we'll win. It would be so great to come back and talk a win with you all.
Would be nice.
It would be nice. And, you assessed one of the issues with this team in a recent appearance as, they're not getting those gritty goals, those second chance goals down in front of the net, that kind of thing. And that doesn't really seem to have changed a whole lot.
No, and that I think is something this team has to do. When you are not finding the back of the net, I think players tend to try harder to place the puck and to have that grand shot and that amazing goal. You don't need amazing goals. This team just needs goals. And so that means you've got to get traffic in front of the goaltender. You've got to be looking for tip-ins. You've got to be looking to screen that goaltender. This is a game where they just need ugly goals. They've got to stop trying for the pretty ones, stop making the extra pass, put it on net, and get players in front of the net. That is going to be the key for this team. And I think if they get the gritty goals and get some confidence back with some wins, then they're going to find that prettier goal scoring game.
And KIMMEL, Penalty Box Radio, joining us here on Main Street Sports today, presented by the Tennessee Orthopedic Alliance of Columbia. And, I kind of feel like we're beating a dead horse here at this point. I don't know. I don't know how to talk about this team at this point, given the trends that we're on right now. It's sort of like, some of those old Vanderbilt football teams. How many different ways can you say this isn't a good team without saying this isn't a good team? And we've basically said that. But, and we appreciate you taking some time and coming on, particularly under these circumstances. And it would be really great to get you back on after a win. So just keep the next day after, whenever they win, open, because we're probably going to be coming to you. You deserve to come on and discuss a win, but we do appreciate your insight and look forward to getting with you soon under better circumstances.
I will make myself available. We'll see if it's tomorrow. We'll just leave it at we'll see if it's tomorrow.
There we go. Sounds good.
Love it.
And thank you.
Thanks so much.
Thank you.
All right. Hey, when we continue here on Main Street Sports Today, presented by the Tennessee Orthopedic Alliance of Columbia, let's talk a little football. Stay tuned after the break.
Do you want to be a bad man? Yeah, you do. Do you want to taste sweet salvation underneath the summer moon? Do you need another hand now? Yeah, you do. Go see Miss Josie down on Columbus Avenue. All right, Columbus Avenue.
At Delta Dental of Tennessee, we know our success begins and ends with providing superior quality service, and that includes serving those who need it most. This year, we're celebrating 25 years of giving back to the community we call home. Delta Dental, along with our Smile 180 Foundation, supports Tennessee's dental colleges and oral health education, children's hospitals, free and reduced cost dental clinics, and other like-minded charities. Here's to the next 25 plus years of ensuring healthy smiles.
So Busy Bee is a very close-knit family. We fight just like every family does. We have arguments, but we always come out with a solution to the problems. We don't just fight about what we want, we fight about what customers need. We want to make sure that every customer we go to is more than satisfied. And that doesn't just start whenever we show up at their door, that starts when we show up every day at work. We want to make sure that we are serving our customers to the best of our ability.
With Lee Company technology, the best handymen are hands-off. Lee Company techs have been using visual findings and other smart technology tools for years to add transparency and virtually take customers along. You see what we see, whether we're in a crawl space or on a roof. With Lee Company, technology helps us help you, no matter what's happening in the world or at your house.
Whether you're an athlete or a weekend warrior, when it comes to your performance, don't settle for anything less than excellence. We're proud to announce that Mid-Tennessee Bone and Joint Clinic is now Tennessee Orthopedic Alliance of Columbia, where we are redefining sports medicine and orthopedics. Tennessee Orthopedic Alliance's team of expert sports medicine physicians understands the unique demands of your body. TOA Columbia specializes in personalized orthopedic care, offering state-of-the-art treatments for everything from sports injuries to joint replacements. Learn more at toacolumbia.com. Top 5 Tuesday continues here on Main Street Sports Today, presented by the Tennessee Orthopedic Alliance of Columbia. Here in the Lee Company studios, that's Wade Neely. I'm Maurice Patton. We said we're going to talk a little football, and one of the things we like here at Main Street Sports Today is our ability to go from preps to pros.
Mm-hmm.
Let's start with preps, as the Tennessee Secondary School Athletic Association announced its Tennessee Titans Mr. Football winners earlier today. And 4 of the 10 winners are from the mid-state, starting in Class 4A, where quarterback Tyler Thompson of Marshall County is your winner. Page linebacker Eric Hazard, who has signed with Louisville and will be enrolling next month, is your 5A Mr. Football. 6A is Auburn commit, I assume he signed last week, Donovan Starr from Ravenwood, and Nashville Christian junior quarterback Jared Curtis is your Division II Class A Mr. Football winner. Between us, I'd say we saw most of them. I didn't see Starr, but Saw Hazard a couple of times. I've seen him for the last 2 or 3 years. Very deserving individual. Obviously, Curtis we just saw against Columbia Academy in the Blue Cross Bowl championship game. Did you see Thompson this year?
Not in person.
Oh, okay. Okay. But he's this was his first year as a starter, right?
Yeah, junior year, gets the nod. He had sat behind Silas Teat for a couple years. All he did, Mo, was go out and throw for nearly 3,000 yards and 45 touchdowns. Not a bad debut. And everybody in Lewisburg had kind of said, man, this kid probably would have started as a freshman, but Teat was so good the last couple of years, he couldn't win the job. Man, talk about making a splash. Your first year as a starter, you win Mr. Football.
Tough act to follow. It makes you wonder what he's going to do next year, right?
And I want to say Teat was a finalist last year.
I think he was.
So, I mean, they've got a great setup. Obviously, a very frustrating finish to the season, going undefeated, beating Pearl Cone earlier in the year, and then falling in overtime at home. But, yeah, they do lose some weapons that he had the luxury of throwing to and handing off to. But they also probably will find a way to get his numbers right back up next year.
You did see the Class 1A Mr. Football winner, Tate Serber of McKenzie, who you say has been a thorn in the side of Giles County residents for a pretty good while in multiple arenas.
Absolutely. Saw him as a freshman eliminate Richland in the sectionals over in McKenzie, basketball that is. Saw him the last 2 years eliminate Richland in sectionals in baseball. And then just for fun, I found out that this year, football is his best sport. He's going to UT Martin, and he torched Giles County. He torched Richland. He got my vote straight from the jump. I said, I don't even need to sit. With all due respect to the 1A kids, there can't be anybody that is more deserving than this kid, as great of a season as he had. But kind of like Thompson, fell shy of making it to Blue Cross Bowl status. But Tate Serber, very deserving. Going to UT Martin. He strikes me as one of those kids. He's a local guy, could see him sticking around, kind of like John Backus, formerly of Giles County, that was a UT Martin superstar. But in this new day and age, could see Tate Serber, maybe spend a year or two at UT Martin and then ply his trade somewhere else.
You sound like he may be getting some graduation gifts from Giles County folks just to make sure that he's gone. Huh?
Yeah, the good news is Giles County, you don't have to see him again. And the good news for Richland is they don't got to see him again because they're off the Giles County schedule. And Richland obviously won't have to see McKenzie unless they make another deep run. So Tate Serber, kind of glad to see that guy get out of here. Richland baseball and basketball still could see him. I think they're all hoping they've seen the last of that guy. They'd like McKenzie to get eliminated a round or two before that.
Absolutely. Milan did not win the 2A Blue Cross Bowl State Championship game, but Jaden Pete did win Mr. Football for them. Another West Tennessee winner, Skyland Smith in Class 3A coming from Covington. Your other Division II winners in Class AA, it was University School of Jackson's Noah Spencer. In Division II AAA, it was David Gabriel Georges of Baylor. And your kicker of the year, which covers all 9 classifications, was Philippe Laforge of Baylor. So congratulations to all the winners.
Our guy Noah Spencer, our buddy Dr. Bo, he's their offensive coordinator. He was hyping him up all year to me, saying, watch out for this kid. He's going to be a playmaker. And he obviously had a great year as they fall to BGA in the semifinals, but getting his just due this afternoon up at Nissan Stadium.
Yeah. One of the highlights of Monday Night Football last night was obviously the Simpsons alternate telecast on Disney Plus and ESPN Plus. I didn't get to see it.
I think that was the only highlight.
Depending on who you ask.
Unless you're, yeah, okay. I see you might be onto something here.
Dallas blocks a punt to give themselves a chance late in the fourth quarter yesterday with the score tied against Cincinnati. They kind of deflected the punt in such a way that it went across the line of scrimmage, and thus it's a live ball. If the Cowboys touch it, which they did, They touched it. They did not recover it. Cincinnati did. Joe Burrow, 40 yards. Jamar Chase, Cincinnati, 27-20 final. All you had to do was leave the ball alone. You're going to have it on the plus side, I think. And even when things go right for Dallas, they don't go right for Dallas.
No, shades of, was it Leon Lett back in the day? Dallas is prone to these special teams gaffes over the years. And the fact that it was in there in prime time makes it tough. But the fact that it was immortalized by the Simpsons broadcast made it even worse. They were already on thin ice as Deron Bland got absolutely cooked by Ralph Wiggum, of all people, on a out route for the first touchdown for the Bengals.
Ralph Wiggum, of all people.
Of all the people, right? I mean, that's I saw the tweet. I sent it to producer Mark. It said, imagine you worked your whole life as hard as you can to get to the NFL, and then in prime time you get cooked by Ralph Wiggum, and now you're immortalized. So I know Bland had a great year with like 7 interceptions for TDs last year, but nobody remembers that now. It's the fact that he got smoked. The Cowboys continue to be an unserious franchise, continue to be a laughing stock for the NFL, and they didn't have any shadows or, sun glare to blame this one on. They just had their own ineptitude. The Bengals, somewhat surprisingly, did not take care of business by a wider margin. I'm not saying they've quit, but man, they've really, really had a tough go of it. And a couple weeks ago, they kind of went all in to try and sell out for one last playoff push. I was kind of surprised the game was as close as it was.
Yeah.
I had my donuts and I had my Duff non-alcoholic ready to go. I mean, I was pumped for the feed until about halftime. Then I said, even for Simpsons measures, this is too bad of a game for me to keep watching at this point.
Not going to subject yourself to that.
So then we swapped to the regular. Me and the wife watched a couple episodes of the regular Simpsons at that point.
The 49ers trying to make a late surge into postseason consideration, I guess, for lack of a better phrase. And helping lead that charge is former Blackman standout Jawan Jennings in their 38-14 win over the Bears this past weekend. He has 7 catches for 90 yards and a pair of touchdowns. Oh, Mark is asking if he can show the Ralph Wiggum video.
I mean, hey, let's roll that beautiful beat footage.
We'll come back to Jawan. Yes, go ahead and show it, Mark, please.
I mean, Deron Bland
Higgins are
really
out.
torched.
Bart, Lisa, and Ralph are in. Bart Simpson takes the snap, throws to
Ralph.
Touchdown! Ralph. He's not in danger. He's in the end zone.
Yes!
You worked your whole life
to throw it to Ralph. I'm so happy for the little
to
guy.
get to that moment. And Ralph is the one that cooks you.
How many times is that going to be shown?
I mean, hopefully forever.
Yeah.
The fact that the Cowboys, poor Homer, right? All he wanted to do was own the Cowboys, and then instead he gets his team embarrassed on a national stage. It was as bad as the Jags with Toy Story last year, getting punked like that. Dallas falls by the wayside. But on to bigger issues, you're right. Jawan Jennings getting some major shine for the 49ers.
774 receiving yards, 6 touchdowns thus far for the 49ers. Again, they are, they've gone through some injuries. They've got some guys down, and he has really kind of surged with the team to this point. So, undrafted, but making his mark out there. Third down Jawan, they like to call him. The 49ers 6-7 right now, but that is really a tightly bunched NFC West right now. Seattle leading the division at 8-5, so
2-game lead.
Yeah, I mean there's some room for some upward mobility for the 49ers, and we'll see if they can get themselves back in that mix for postseason play.
And I know he had a good game too in the snow game. I know they got clobbered, Nate. I mean, they're in the mix, but they're probably going to miss. Like I said, it's been the season from hell from them, but it was cool. Tirico and Collinsworth both were shouting out Jennings. They did twist the knife a little bit, though, 2 Sundays ago. They did mention, he was going to be the MVP of the Super Bowl.
He was absolutely going to be.
And it's
the
like,
MVP.
come on now. We everybody knows that. We could have done without hearing it again as a Chiefs reminder there. But he's played well the last couple of weeks. He's one of the only few guys that's been kind of consistent in this injury-riddled season for those guys.
Yeah. If you were watching the SEC championship game, you saw the borderline gruesome injury that Carson Beck sustained right there at the end of the first half, trying to make a throw and gets his arm hit by a Texas defensive lineman. He's seeking treatment options for the elbow injury, is not expected to play in their quarterfinal matchup? Is that what that would be? In the college football playoff? So Gunnar Stockton, who stepped in for the second half and got them into the overtime matchup against Texas, would be QB1 should Beck not be able to go. And little known fact, there are some local fans who have some familiarity with Gunnar Stockton. Back when he played at Rabun Gap High School in Georgia, he was a South Carolina commit when those guys and Columbia Academy played each other at Boyd Buchanan back during the pandemic season of 2020, you know, when folks were dropping games and picking up games on the spur of the moment and that kind of thing. Those two teams managed to put together a matchup again down at Boyd Buchanan, and he pretty well torched them. He was 15 of 19 for 241 yards and 4 touchdowns in a 42-6 win, Rabun County over Columbia Academy. Also, he only ran it twice for 5 yards, but again, completed 15 of 19. So slinging it a little bit.
Yeah, no surprise, obviously, to see him at an SEC level type school with those numbers. And I did find it interesting. Saw some folks chatting about this. I don't know how much it would have really mattered, but Georgia was awfully slow to address the injury issues. They waited conveniently till after the bracket had been finalized. You don't want to leave things to chance.
Well, I mean, they probably saw Florida State last year and the Jordan Travis situation. So
they said, we're going to get a bye, but we want to make sure we get the 2. We don't want to be sliding back to the 4. So
the less said about our quarterback situation, probably the better.
So I did find a little slight bit of gamesmanship there. But yeah, obviously, if he goes at 100%, they're a totally different team than if he's less than 100, or obviously if Stockton is in there. So and I think they even got a different guy back, a third quarterback or another player that's also just been ruled out for the season. So Georgia's been battling some injuries all year, and obviously they got one at a critical moment of the season here.
No doubt. Our number 1 here on Top 5 Tuesday on Main Street Sports Today is in the books. When we come back to the Lee Company studio for hour number 2, we'll be joined by the Blue Raider voice, the pride of the dimple, Chip Walters. Stay tuned after the break.
Nashville's Nutcracker returns to TPAC this December, presented by Nashville Ballet. This holiday season, audiences will journey with Clara and the Nutcracker Prince through Nashville's history and the land of sweets. Tickets at NashvilleBallet.com.
Hi, I'm Dr. Vilay Saisuka, CEO and founder of Premier Foot and Ankle Centers of Tennessee here in Murfreesboro. We offer foot and ankle care from ingrown toenails to diabetic foot wounds. We also fix ankle fractures and things like that.
Call us today to schedule an appointment. We look forward to seeing you.
Because here at Premier Foot and Ankle, we believe that
the journey begins with happy feet.
Whether you're an athlete or a weekend warrior, when it comes to your performance, don't settle for anything less than excellence. We're proud to announce that Mid-Tennessee Bone and Joint Clinic is now Tennessee Orthopedic Alliance of Columbia, where we are redefining sports medicine and orthopedics. Tennessee Orthopedic Alliance's team of expert sports medicine physicians understands the unique demands of your body. TOA Columbia specializes in personalized orthopedic care, offering state-of-the-art treatments for everything from sports injuries to joint replacements. Learn more at toacolumbia.com. Jones & Lang Sporting Goods here in Columbia has been outfitting teams, officials, and anybody else from T-ball to college for 50 plus years. Be sure and check them out at 931-388-8060 or online at jonesandlang.com. Jones & Lang Sporting Goods, the look of a winner.
Zion Christian Academy, zioneagles.org or 931-388-5731. You can schedule your appointment. Go tour their campus. It is beautiful over there, and you're definitely going to want to see it. Again, it's zioneagles.org. Give them a call, 931-388-5731, and schedule your tour today.
With Lee Company technology, the best handymen are hands-off. Lee Company techs have been using visual findings and other smart technology tools for years to add transparency and virtually take customers along. You see what we see, whether we're in a crawl space or on a roof. With Lee Company, technology helps us help you, no matter what's happening in the world or at your house.
Custom Stone Handler supplies over 600 distributors and suppliers with quality stone products. Along with River Stone, we produce and distribute over 100 building, landscape, and other bulk products. Our goal is to provide quality products, service, and partnerships to ensure our customers' success. We firmly believe that the measure of any person or company is how they treat other people and customers. Give them a call at 931-490-4990 or visit CustomStonehandlers.com.
Piggly Wiggly, located in Neely's Mill Shopping Center, is Columbia's locally owned and operated Cost Plus 10 grocery store dedicated to serving the community with low prices and smiling faces. Piggly Wiggly offers fresh, hand-cut meats daily as well as daily hot plate lunches from their deli counter. You're certain to see smiling faces and a helping hand when you're here at Piggly Wiggly. Come by and check out our fresh produce, high-quality meats, and more. Down home, down the street, we'll see you at the Pig.
Hour number 2 of Top 5 Tuesday gets going here on Main Street Sports Today, presented by the Tennessee Orthopedic Alliance of Columbia. That's Wade Neely. I'm Maurice Patton. We are now joined by Chip Walters, the Blue Raider voice, getting us up to speed on what's going on campus. Chip, good afternoon.
How are you? How are you both?
We're doing well. You survived Chattanooga?
I did. It was a little chilly. I will say that the television booth at Finley Stadium is warmer than the television booth at Tucker Stadium was on those cold weekends. I'll just say that. But I'll say this: the thing that I was struck with after a weekend, and I was not there on Saturday. I was there on Thursday, there on Friday. There are more really good young quarterbacks in Tennessee right now than I believe I've ever seen.
The game has really come along at the high school level here over the last however long you want to look at, 5 years, 10 years, 20 years, that kind of thing. I mean, everybody's got a Kelly Holcomb now, right?
That's right. And I was fortunate. I had the Nashville Christian game. So I had their quarterback, and I had Westview had their quarterback who up until last week, here's the best stat of the weekend. And I'll have to give Kelly Holcomb credit, but he also gave our buddy Mike Organ credit, was that the Martin Westview quarterback up until the state semifinals were over had more touchdown passes than he had incompletions this season. Let that sink in.
Now that's a hell of a stat right there.
Yeah, but it flipped during the semifinals. But he's terrific. And like I said,
he's a freshman, right?
Yeah, he's a freshman. And the kid from Nashville Christian, he has got all the measurables, and he throws it around like Jared Allen, side arming it and all kinds of stuff. The kid's got a rocket for an arm. So
he's really got a little Matthew Stafford to him with the different angles that he can deliver it from. Yeah, he's pretty special.
Yeah, I was very and that's, you mentioned the level of talent that's gone up. I mean, it's just simply reflected in, you think about, okay, what was the population in our state 15, 20 years ago. What is it now? So, just by doing the math, if you have more population, you're going to have more talented kids and more prospects, and that's the way it is right now.
Chip, it is officially the off season for MTSU football, but that doesn't mean nothing's going on, right?
No, it's not. We talked a little bit last week about, oh gosh, a couple of things have happened since we talked last Tuesday. You've had signing day, which Derek Mason basically calls the draft,
right?
Because that's where he goes and they find their high school and junior college talent. They did not sign any junior college players yet, but they signed 16 high school players, 10 of which have come from in-state. A good number of those from Rutherford and surrounding counties. So that has all been met, with a great bit of positivity. And of course, on Monday, yesterday, the silly season began, as they like to call it in NASCAR. We'll take that over into college football too. That the transfer portal door opened, and it is quite busy across the country, and all including here on the home front.
Yeah, we talked a little bit about receiver Omari Kelly jumping into the portal. Who else? Anybody of late for middle?
Of note? Let me see here. I've pulled up On3. Normally has a pretty good list. Apparently, according to ESPN, there are 22 players from middle who have gone into the portal. On3 is listing 14 right now. Most noteworthy, Omari Kelly, quarterback Luther Richardson, who did not play this year. So he's basically taken a red shirt year. Backup tight end Taharon Sutterth of Alcoa. We mentioned James Mons. He had played a good bit. John House out of Brentwood Academy has put his name.
Brentwood High.
Out of Brentwood High School. Yeah, he has put his name in. Running back Terry Wilkins, who played a good bit, is in there. I'd read Marvay Myers, but that is, again, that's just what I'd read. A couple of linemen, Jashun Bodiford, who was injured, didn't play this year. So there are, there are folks out there who are in the portal, but and that's what, again, On3 has right now, but none of them are listed as having a destination at this point. But that's just kind of where things are. The 22, by the way, is the most in Conference USA at the moment, and also the third most in the group of 5. One really notable player in Conference USA is Western Kentucky quarterback Caden Veltkamp has put his name in the transfer portal, which will be interesting to see how that works out. So,
well, what's really interesting about that is not only is Veltkamp in the portal, but TJ Finley is in the portal as well.
That's correct. That's right.
So,
but TJ Finley being in the portal is just like,
it's Tuesday.
It's like the Swallows coming back to Capistrano.
So. Hey, you mentioned Veltkamp. Was that a guy that was he not their tight end at one point, Chip? And I guess with that being said, what does his value look like? Because he had a great little run this year at the QB when Finley went out, obviously.
He sure did. And that all happened against Middle. And
I was at that game.
And Veltkamp, just came on and absolutely lit it up and took Western to the conference championship game. A lot of those guys have worked out, Mike White, you start looking back, but are they considered system quarterbacks, or are they true quarterback prospects, for the next level? because they have their way of playing, and under they've done a good job and they've won a lot of football games. But how does it translate in the future? That's a great question, and I don't really have the answer to it.
I guess I'm also curious, Chip, kind of just crystal ball approach in your mind for Derek Mason. Is he going to be reactive in terms of, okay, this kid leaves, that means I got to go replace him? Or is he kind of maybe looking at the transfer portal, hey, yeah, we're going to lose a couple, but maybe I'm already going ahead and trying to pluck a few myself even before some folks hit the door potentially?
Well, I think obviously there has to be some of both.
In the reactive part, I can speak for
and
sure.
the thing is, none of us, other than the coaching staff who's had the conversations, none of us knows whether player X or whatever is a surprise that they're in there. The coaching staff had been having conversations already. So, I think they had a pretty good feel of who might go or who they may have encouraged to go into the portals, because, that is, there's a lot of that across the country. More, it's not always the player just saying, well, I'm up and I'm out of here. Sometimes the coaches say, hey, you'll have a better opportunity if you go into the portal and take a look at this level of play, whether it's up or whether it's down. And it also, gives the coaching staff an opportunity to have an opening on the roster, because you are going to have roster limits at 105, and that's going to push players down from the 150 level that a lot of the Power Fives have been at. So, where are these players going to land? And I do know that they are, and Coach, has been very open that they are going after an offensive line and a defensive line. Since his opening press conference a year ago, he said, it is a game that is won and lost in the trenches. This was not a year where they, had great success in the trenches, but, they feel like that they have a need, and that's their needs they're going to fill. So that circles back around to your question. There is going to be reactivity to names that have gone in, and there is proactivity of not only going out and looking, but also encouraging certain players to get in the portal to where there are openings for those individuals that they are going to go after.
While we're chatting with that, I also am curious, any staff news to report? Mo and I spent a lengthy segment yesterday talking about coaching carousel news.
None whatsoever at this point. Have not heard anything, good, bad, or indifferent, whether there would be any changes, nor have I seen anything of where anyone on the staff might have an opportunity elsewhere. Just have not seen that at all. And I know, this time of year, most of that's going to happen, number one, when all these other jobs get filled, and who's got the connections, wherever they may be. And then, of course, you have the week of the coaches convention in early January, and that's where a lot of staff positions end up getting filled during that time period.
Chip Walters, the Blue Raider voice, joining us here on Main Street Sports Today, presented by the Tennessee Orthopedic Alliance of Columbia. Chip, I know you said that whether or not it's a surprise, we may not necessarily know, but as I look back at the season that John House had, 11 starts, played in all 12 games, fifth in tackles, led all defensive players with 688 snaps. And this was a guy who had a bit of a connection to Coach Mason from Vanderbilt. I'm not around the program to the degree that you are, obviously, but when you mentioned his name, I was surprised at that one.
That one surprises, I would say, to some degree. But like you said, he has proven that he can play 11 games and stay healthy. And, it could be that he is putting it out there to test the waters. We've seen, when all of this first started a few years ago in football and in basketball in particular, there was the common theme that, okay, player A goes in the portal, and it was almost like a Sopranos moment. He's dead to me. But it has, it has changed in the sense that it has almost become part of the re-recruiting process of your own roster. And I think about Justin Porter, who went into the portal, did not find a greener pasture. He found out that the best spot was where he was. Could that be the same for John House? Could that be the same for Omari Kelly? I mean, Omari Kelly had 5 catches in his career at Auburn. He comes to Middle. He becomes a first-team All-Conference USA selection, nearly, almost 800 to 900 yards receiving. He may look around and, whether it's financially or fit or whatever are the priorities that each player has, and they're all different. He may look around and say, I've got a veteran quarterback coming back. They are putting an offensive line together. This is where I may need to be. That's just something that will play itself out over time. And there are no hard answers. I think, as we like to say, we have a fluid situation here.
Meanwhile, Luther Richardson, former Lipscomb standout, signed with Cincinnati out of high school, went into the portal before he got there, basically. Played a year of JUCO ball out in California. So I'm intrigued by him, but there's a lot of quarterbacks in the portal.
There are a lot of quarterbacks in the portal, and we just named one from up the road. He's got to find a place where he can play. And if him going in may make me feel even more secure about Nick Vattiato, and also Roman Gagliano, and then you sign a dual threat quarterback out of Florida who is rated as one of the best, if not the best, dual threat quarterback in Central Florida. So, you start looking at numbers and the writing on the wall and figure out, where is my fit going to be? And that, I think that's where that's maybe what Luther is seeing, because he didn't play this year. And Roman Gagliano came in as a true freshman, even though Roman was an early enrollee in January, and Roman became the backup. He was the number 2 all year on the depth chart, and did play in a couple of games. So I think that's probably the best way to look at how that situation falls as far as the quarterback room is concerned.
There you go. Chip, Conference USA announced its all conference teams here recently, and despite Middle's performance in a 3-9 season, they had a handful of guys recognized.
Yep. And on the offensive side, there were 2 off the offense, and neither one will surprise you. Holden Willis and Omari Kelly, and also long snapper Brody Butler. They were the 3 first teamers that were named from Middle. And if you said, okay, who are your 2 best offensive weapons? Well, Holden Willis and Omari Kelly. And they proved that throughout the year. Brody Butler was part of a punting unit that was number 1 in net punting in Conference USA this year. On the second team, I think this one, and Grant Chadwick was second team, the young man out of Tullahoma. He and Brody Butler, were part of that punting unit. And Chadwick, after a rocky first game against Tennessee Tech, was just lights out in the punt game. And then Xavier Williams, who is to me, one of the best stories on this team, a guy who was really your number 3 quarterback, and 3 games in said, hey, he was asked, how would you like to play free safety? And he moved over to safety and became a second team all-conference player at safety.
Play being the key word in that request, I
yes,
guess.
Yeah. And so there's that. The all freshman team, Jaquel Middlebrook, who kind of after Frank Pisant's injury, as the year went on, Jaquel Middlebrook became kind of the go-to guy in the backfield, not only as a runner who got better and better and better as the year went along, but also became the most effective pass catcher out of the backfield. Then defensive end Anthony Bynum and defensive tackle Shakai Woods, both who, I think back, okay, whose name did I call the most on defense? Well, there was Xavier Williams, and then Anthony Bynum and Shakai Woods were kind of right behind. And those two guys, it's hard to think about that they're both freshmen after as much as they played this year. And I think those are two guys that, that the coaching staff and Coach Mason look back at of what they call the year 0 recruiting class or signing class. Those are two gems out of that class right there.
Chip, I want to ask you, we've kind of walked into football quite a bit here, but give us an update on the hardwood, especially Mo mentioned at the start of the show. We've had a couple tough ones here lately for the men and the ladies, but it seems like they're in prime position heading into Christmas holiday.
Well, both teams are 7-3 going into the holidays, but each team has 3 games left. For the men, it's no cakewalk. They've got 2 home games. They don't play again until next Monday. And Cal Baptist, who they played a few years ago in the CBI, they will be coming to Murfreesboro from their home out in California. And that's part of the WAC Conference USA challenge, as I like to call it, scheduling initiative, as the conference office likes to call it. But but Cal Baptist will be here. Then that's on Monday. Then next Thursday, Lipscomb will be in Murfreesboro, and if you think the matchup with Belmont was tough, well, Lipscomb's going to be just as tough. They probably should have beaten Belmont. Belmont had to come from 12 down, I think, and won. And Belmont has been great closing out games lately. They came from behind to beat Illinois State last week. They came, they closed middle out and held the Blue Raiders off. The middle cut it to 1 4 times in the last 3 minutes, but could never get the game tied or in the lead. Now on the women's side, Belmont wins for the 4th time in 5 years against Rick Insel's Lady Raiders, and 2nd year in a row. But the Lady Raiders cannot sulk very long, because they've got to turn around and go to St. Joseph, Missouri on Saturday to play Kansas State. And they jump right back in the deep end of the pool with, a Power 5. You look at, okay, who, counting Saturday, who are their last who are 3 of their last 5 games against, Purdue, Iowa State, and then Kansas State.
Yeah.
And then, on the men's side, you've got, as I mentioned, you've got Cal Baptist, you've got Lipscomb, and then on the 23rd, you go to Tennessee. Well, look farther ahead on the women's schedule. They have to go to Cal Baptist as part of the Conference USA WAC Challenge, and then back across the country to Princeton, to go to Princeton, New Jersey. So that will, they've got 3 straight games away from Murphy Center, and 4 counting Belmont to wind out the non-conference portion of the schedule. They will get to open up conference play at home against FIU and Liberty, while the men will go on the road. But there's no more cakewalks for either of these 2 teams between now and the end of the calendar year.
Chip Walters, the Blue Raider voice, joining us here on Main Street Sports today, presented by the Tennessee Orthopedic Alliance of Columbia. Chip, Groundhog Day luncheon set for January 31st. I thought Groundhog Day was on February 2nd. Talk to me.
February 2nd's on Sunday.
Well, there you go. Okay.
So
this will be on what?
On Friday.
On Friday. Okay.
Yeah, and it will be in between two home basketball games. It will be between New Mexico State and UTEP. So that'll be at the Student Union building, which has become a terrific home for this event. I'm not sure if you've been over there for this event just yet. It's been over there the last 3 years, I think. But Jerry Myers does a really good job with it. He is picked up the baton where it had been left off previously. Going back to Coach Stanford and Pete and Jim and Jim Toman and now Coach Myers has embraced this. But if you want to come to that again, we'll talk about it probably another half dozen times and mention it before it happens. But we all know the menu. It is ham hocks, white beans, tomato salad, cornbread, onions, green onions, then chocolate cake and vanilla ice cream.
Oh, baby.
So it is some great country cooking. And I'm not sure if this is what they, if the first groundhog luncheon 50 years ago, if this was a planned menu or if they just went in the fridge and saw what they had left over, but it has worked out okay, and has become it's a sellout every year. And over in the Student Union building, they can hold about 600 for this luncheon.
Okay, Chip, we appreciate you taking some time with us this Tuesday. We look forward to seeing you next Tuesday. And
we'll look forward to that. That'll be right after the Cal Baptist game.
Okay, we'll have plenty to talk about.
Certainly
Sounds
will.
Good.
Y'all
Thank
have a
you,
good
sir.
week.
You
Thank
too.
you, Chip.
Let's take a break here on Main Street Sports Today, presented by the Tennessee Orthopedic Alliance of Columbia. In our final segment, it's Top 5 Tuesday. We will be giving you our top 5 best/most memorable bowl games. But the next segment, we'll get into the grab bag. Let's see what we can pull out. Stay tuned.
Hi, I'm Riley, a certified physician associate here at Premier Foot and Ankle Centers of Tennessee. We have a couple locations, Murfreesboro, McMinnville, as well as Franklin. We treat people of all ages. We're excited to get you back on your feet and hope we can help you today.
Call us today to schedule an appointment. We look forward to seeing you.
Because here at Premier Foot and Ankle, we believe that
The journey begins with happy feet.
He shoots and he scores!
Whether you're an athlete or a weekend warrior, when it comes to your performance, don't settle for anything less than excellence. We're proud to announce that Mid-Tennessee Bone and Joint Clinic is now Tennessee Orthopedic Alliance of Columbia, where we are redefining sports medicine and orthopedics. Tennessee Orthopedic Alliance's team of expert sports medicine physicians understands the unique demands of your body. TOA Columbia specializes in personalized orthopedic care, offering state-of-the-art treatments for everything from sports injuries to joint replacements. Learn more at toacolumbia.com.
With Lee Company technology, the best handymen are hands-off. Lee Company techs have been using visual findings and other smart technology tools for years to add transparency and virtually take customers along. You see what we see, whether we're in a crawl space or on a roof. With Lee Company, technology helps us help you. no matter what's happening in the world or at your house.
Jones & Lang Sporting Goods here in Columbia has been outfitting teams, officials, and anybody else from T-ball to college for 50-plus years. Be sure and check them out at 931-388-8060 or online at jonesandlang.com. Jones & Lang Sporting Goods, the look of a winner.
Zion Christian Academy, zioneagles.org or 931-388-5731. You can schedule your appointment. Go tour their campus. It is beautiful over there, and you're definitely going to want to see it. Again, it's zioneagles.org. Give them a call, 931-388-5731, and schedule your tour today.
Piggly Wiggly, located in Neely's Mill Shopping Center, is Columbia's locally owned and operated Cost Plus 10 grocery store dedicated to serving the community with low prices and smiling faces. Piggly Wiggly offers fresh, hand-cut meats daily, as well as daily hot plate lunches from their deli counter. You're certain to see smiling faces and a helping hand when you're here at Piggly Wiggly. Come by and check out our fresh produce, high-quality meats, and more. Down home, down the street, we'll see you at the Pig.
Top 5 Tuesday continues here on Main Street Sports Today, presented by the Tennessee Orthopedic Alliance of Columbia. That's Wade Neely. I'm Maurice Patton, and we are into our bag, the grab bag. Starting with some NBA news. Is the Heat actually going to trade Jimmy Buckets?
Surely not.
You know, you wouldn't think, but word on the street is that there are discussions being had. Why?
I mean, this better not be because on Abbott Elementary a couple weeks ago, Mr. Johnson dressed up as emo Jimmy Butler for Halloween. Surely Jimmy didn't take that to heart and say, you know what, I need a new change of scenery. I don't know. I feel like the Heat, I mean, he is kind of their identity. They've got some great pieces around him, but man, a couple years ago when they made that insane run as the 8th seed all the way to the championship, I mean, that was extremely punching over their weight. I think those days are behind them, so I could see the logic if they want to move, but I just don't know who's going to necessarily want to make a move for him right now.
I don't necessarily know that anybody may want to make a move for him, but you can see where Miami might want to make a move with him. 12-10 Miami. Butler has a player option for next season of $52.4 million. So I guess this would allow them to get out from under that. But Shams is saying Miami is open to listening to offers and making a deal if the proposal is right. Butler does not intend to pick up his player option and is open to going to one of 3 Western Conference teams, the Warriors, Rockets, or Mavs. Averaging 19 points, 5.5 rebounds, nearly 5 assists, and a steal over 32 minutes. So still effective.
Still effective, and I mean they're in purgatory, right? Though I mean they're trailing the Cavs, who lost twice to your Hawks, by the way. They got 4 losses, and 2 of them are to your Atlanta Hawks.
Is that not crazy?
It was wild, but they're in purgatory because they're trailing them. They're trailing the Celtics. Nobody in that East is going to catch either one of those teams this year, I don't think. Right. Maybe the Magic if they get everybody healthy, which Wagner just went out, so it's not looking likely. But they're sitting there in the 5 spot, right there, kind of just in purgatory. So that's what I'm saying. I could see the Heat. They kind of need to make a move, not necessarily for this year, maybe not necessarily even for next year, but to kind of set up that next wave of where they want to potentially go as a franchise. And if you could get, a decent haul from any of those 3 teams in particular you mentioned, may not be a bad idea, but they're kind of caught in no man's land right now.
You know, we talked a little bit about the men's college basketball polls yesterday and Tennessee moving back to the top of the AP poll. This is their 6th number 1 ranking ever. And they jumped up there after Kansas got beat twice. They're going to put it on the line almost immediately. They play Miami tonight in the first half of the Jimmy V Classic up at Madison Square Garden. Michigan and Arkansas in the late game there. But Tennessee 8-0 heading into that game. Miami is 3-6. The Vols are one of 8 remaining unbeaten teams in college basketball, in men's college basketball. Drake, Florida, Loyola, Chicago, Oklahoma, Rhode Island, UC Irvine, and Utah State. So 8 unbeatens, 3 from the SEC.
Tennessee favored by 14.5 tonight. Feels like that's in pretty good shape. Another beat down versus an ACC team is likely looming this evening.
It seems so. And, I mean, I don't think that Miami is quite as good as Syracuse. So you would think that the Vols are going to take care of business tonight. And, again, the 6th time they have been ranked number 1, I think 5 of those 6 have been under Rick Barnes, the guy who was supposedly coming in here to coast into retirement.
The previous number 1, they had it briefly, and then I think they lost to Vanderbilt like the very next game.
Immediately.
So, I mean.
It was like on a Tuesday night.
Yeah, you can almost just throw that one out.
Sort of like this.
But, yeah, they are, ascending. Auburn went down. I think a lot of folks still value Auburn as maybe the quote-unquote best team in the SEC. Luckily, obviously, those 2 teams will get a chance to do battle here before too long, and we'll get a chance to make up our own minds there. But it feels like Tennessee's just winning this one by attrition, but that's the beauty of it, right? I mean, as long as somebody keeps losing, as long as you keep winning, you're going to rise to that top spot. Just hopefully they can take care of business tonight and not an immediate toe stub like years ago.
Yeah. I don't think Miami's as good as Vanderbilt was that year. And it's not at Memorial Gym. So I think they'll be okay. Trying to see what they've got after Miami here and before MTSU, as Chip mentioned a little bit ago. They go to Illinois on Saturday. And then they've got Western Carolina coming to TBA at FCC before that MTSU game on the 23rd. So
that Illinois game will be a tough one.
Yeah, it will.
They play Wisconsin tonight in a big, Big Ten showdown. But that game coming up on the 14th, as sneaky, Illinois has already got a couple losses on the year, but that will be a good road test. Tennessee doesn't need, big wins, obviously being number 1 at this moment. But if you can go on the road and get that one, if you stub your toe a time or two as the season continues, that's one that could help bolster your resume down the stretch.
Yeah. They'll get a good look at Arkansas tonight. I'm sure they'll be scouting since they open SEC play on January 4th against John Calipari and the Razorbacks again at Thompson Bowling Arena at Food City Center. So that'll be a good one to get things started with. Women's basketball. South Carolina is surging again following that loss out at UCLA, and I'm having a tough time recalling the young lady's name, but they've got a dunker over at South Carolina with the women. Ashlyn Watkins had a dunk in their win against TCU. Pretty big win over TCU. They won that one 89-52. TCU number 9, South Carolina number 3. You wouldn't expect there to be 37 points difference between the number 3 and the number 9 team in the country, but apparently there was/is. This was the 3rd dunk in as many seasons for Watkins, a junior for South Carolina. And unfortunately, when I put this in the run of show, I did not stick a link on it for Mark to be able to grab that video because I was kind of hoping we could show that. But
you mentioned The point differential, that's not your garden variety number 3 team in the country, right?
Well, that's true.
They're a little bit better than that. And
Well,
TCU,
one, they're a little bit better than that. Two, I would imagine they're playing with a little bit of a chip on their shoulder right now after that
caught them at a
loss.
bad time. TCU had been playing well, though, so that's not exactly a bad win or a you throw away win for South Carolina. Don't know that their resume will need to be justified or solidified later in the year as we unfold, but still a good feather in your cap because that was TCU had been playing good ball up until that point.
TCU. That's where Van Lith is, right?
She end up at
where? I'm pretty sure she's at TCU.
Yeah. Good call by you.
Yeah.
Merry-go-round continues.
Well, she's a little different. Wonder what she did in that ball game. Because again, you wouldn't have expected there to be that much of a difference between 2 top 10 teams like that. Yes, Mark, the Watkins dunk. You got it?
We're always in favor of showing some dunk footage on here.
Here
Oh,
we go.
yeah. Down at Dickey's Arena, no less.
Watkins swatted by Prince. And then the steal by Watkins. Take it right back. Prince giving chase. And Watkins with the dunk.
Hello.
South Carolina.
That's solid. Off a steal.
Good theft. Good
off a steal after she got it stolen from her.
Yes.
So, yeah, little retaliation.
A little revenge there. That's a good win for South Carolina. And, rumors of their demise probably a little exaggerated.
Slightly.
UCLA obviously is, certainly one of the best teams in the country. So that's not exactly a bad loss for South Carolina. They'll be okay. They do kind of have a couple South Florida notwithstanding, but they got Charleston Southern and Wofford still to play until the new year. But then, boom, they jump right in to league play, including a massive showdown to 2 top 10 teams versus Texas in early January. So got check this out. In the month of January, they got Texas at home. They got Oklahoma at home, who's number 10 in the land. And then they got LSU at home. Luckily, all 3 are at home, but all 3 are in the first 2 weeks of SEC play for the Gamecocks.
So South Carolina getting tested early and Texas and Oklahoma getting their baptism under fire, going on the road to Colonial Life Arena right off the bat. Welcome to the SEC.
Chance to check it out. And then South Carolina's first big SEC road game is Tennessee late January. So they've got 4 ranked games all within the first month of the season, ranked at the moment. And we expect most of those teams, if not all, to still be ranked by the time those games roll around.
Yeah. As we mentioned, the winter meetings are ongoing down in Dallas. But some of the bigger news coming from Tampa, as apparently the Rays' schedule is being pushed back a day to help, to give them a little bit extra time to get Steinbrenner Field, their new home, ready for the season. They open at home against the Colorado Rockies, and I think the Yankees play their final spring training game just 4 days earlier. So I guess every little bit of help they can get will help with that. But yeah, the Rays opener has been moved from March 27 to March 28 so that they can, get signage up and get some different, adjustments made to reflect Rays rather than Yankees in place. So 19 of Tampa Bay's first 22 games will be played at home. 37 of 54 through Memorial Day weekend. And 64 of their last 108 games will be played on the road in an attempt to avoid summer rain at the open air ballpark. So that's keep your bags packed if you're playing for the Rays.
Yeah, trying to make the best of a bad situation. Hopefully it can all work out as best as possible, because that's been rough, and it will be a challenging year, if not year plus. Hopefully they can get things as close to normal as possible, even though it certainly won't be.
Yeah. We talked about Juan Soto signing with the Mets after spending the past season or part of the season with the Yankees. Well, you would think that the Yankees might strike back by going after Pete Alonso for their first base spot that Anthony Rizzo opens up with his free agency. But apparently the Yankees are not in the Pete Alonso sweepstakes, according to reports coming out of Dallas. So the Mets, meanwhile, would like to re-sign their first baseman, the polar bear.
Yeah, say, well, we'll take him back. We got keep our home run derby representation still going, and get some stray regular season production from him as well.
Yeah.
We got the money. Might as well spend it.
Yeah. Clearly they do. So we'll see how that goes. Let's go ahead and take our final break. Come back, talk a little Top 5 Tuesday as we give you our top 5 best/most memorable bowl games. Stay tuned when we come back to Lee Company Studios after this.
So, you want to be a part of the Busy Bee team, huh? Well, how do you see yourself fitting into the organization? Oh, I get it. You want to be a weather bee.
This holiday season, the largest lantern festival in the country returns to Nashville Zoo. Experience more than 1,000 all-new, handcrafted lanterns, towering creatures, magical worlds, and a North Pole village. At the center of it all, the Smashville Ice Rink. Welcome back to Zoolumination at Nashville Zoo. Bigger, brighter, and better than ever.
One this weekend is one below it.
Top 5 Tuesday here on Main Street Sports Today, presented by the Tennessee Orthopedic Alliance of Columbia. That's Wade Neely. I'm Maurice Patton. We are in the Lee Company Studios here in Columbia, and it is time for Top 5 Tuesday, presented by Mid-South 5 Fitness. 2 great locations, one in Franklin, one in Columbia. Whatever shape it is you're in, Dallas Steele will get you in a better one. You can find him at Steel Athletes, STEEL athletes.com. Dallas Steele and the fine folks at Mid-South 5 Fitness bringing you Top 5 Tuesday. Today, it is our top 5, again, best/most memorable bowl games. And I got, a little bit of both, I guess. There are some games that made an indelible mark. They weren't necessarily great games, weren't necessarily great matchups, but there were occurrences within that make them instantly come to mind when this topic comes up. So with that said, floor is yours.
Well, I was going to say, Mo, if we do this game or do this top 5 this time next year, undoubtedly we'll have the Snoop Dogg Arizona Bowl between Colorado State and Miami, Ohio. December 28th, you can tune in to the CW. But if you miss it, don't worry. This time next year, undoubtedly that one will be on our list. If not, the Duke's Mayo Bowl always treats some folks right. First for me, I don't want to be a no duh type guy, but Oklahoma Boise State in the 2007 Fiesta Bowl has got to be up there. And I didn't even watch this game until probably the start of the fourth quarter. I forget what I had going on. It was just prior to being on Twitter too. So it wasn't that. It was just somebody had texted me, I guess, and was like, you have got to watch this. So I tuned in for all the fourth quarter, all the overtime, and Zabransky and the Boise State Broncos pull off the shocker thanks to the Statue of Liberty and the hook and ladder. And what a wild game, 2007 Fiesta Bowl. And if that wasn't good enough, then you got a marriage proposal at the end of the game to go with it.
And you covered it all. You covered it all. The Statue of Liberty was clutch. I've forgotten about the hook and lateral, but the Statue of Liberty. And then, like you said, the marriage proposal by the running back.
Ian Johnson.
Yes.
I watched that
Wonder if they're
highlight.
still together.
I hope so.
Yeah.
If so, maybe they'll show them on TV during Boise's Fiesta Bowl this year. I also
returning to the scene of the crime.
That's a great YouTube watch. Just the fourth quarter and overtime. You can watch it bite-sized in a hurry to go back and revisit. That's got to be my number one.
My number one is the 1986 Sugar Bowl. Jeff Powell going the distance in the second half to increase UT's lead in an eventual 35-7 win over Miami down at the Superdome in New Orleans. Miami, specifically remember Miami in their pregame talk, Jimmy Johnson lobbying for a national championship once we win this game, and UT just saying, yeah, about that. So, yeah, that's one that sticks out in my mind, the 86 Sugar Bowl there. So.
Up next, I promise I'm not a Fiesta Bowl homer, but I got to give a shout out. This got a personal twist for me. 2011, the BCS game, Auburn versus Oregon. It was the national championship game, and it was a crazy, crazy game. But it was famous for me because I had to sleep. I was a young radio broadcaster at WKSR, and it was so much snow in Pulaski that there was no way I was going to make my 6 a.m. show the next morning. So I had to sleep overnight at the studio, and therefore I got to curl up and watch the game on television. I got to, don't tell anybody, well, I guess statute limitations is gone. I got to play all the music that I wanted that night. It was a grand time. Our Pulaski Citizen publisher, Scott Stewart, he was out at the game, and he was sending us pictures of him having fun in the desert while we were all stuck in the snow for 48 hours. So the BCS national title game, Nate Bain, give me your tears as your Oregon Ducks go down to Auburn in that one.
Under the circumstances, I'd say that qualifies as most memorable, if not best.
Sleep on the couch. I mean, I got all the snacks from the break room. I didn't have to replace any of them because I was the low man on the totem pole. I didn't have enough money to replace them. That was my first job. So give me the 2011 BCS Fiesta Bowl.
Number two for me, Clemson 17, the Ohio State 15 in the 1978 Gator Bowl. Infamous in that it was Woody Hayes' final game.
It was
as coach of the Buckeyes after Clemson linebacker Charlie Bowman intercepted a pass, went out of bounds on the Ohio State sidelines, and Woody Hayes punched him. I was actually sitting watching that game as a 13, 14-year-old. And watching that in real time, and he just punched him.
Kirby Smart can never.
No, man,
he got close, but yeah,
he did get close.
Woody, that was a transcendent moment. To your point, I remember just hearing about that growing up. It's like this guy got fired for doing this, and an epic career, gone in the blink of an eye.
It's crazy. I mean, yeah, everything that he had done to that point just kind of evaporated. It's kind of nuts. But yeah, that's my number two.
That is a good pull there. An iconic moment, to say the least.
For the wrong reasons.
Yes. Number three, man, I got some good ones still out here. Number three for me, I mean, I'm going to just go ahead and do it. Put my homer cap on. Last year, the 2024 Rose Bowl, Michigan hadn't won a Rose Bowl since 1998, which was also another year in Michigan fame. But they slayed the final beast. They sent Nick Saban into retirement. They beat the boss, the big bad boss of Alabama, to get to the national championship game, 27-20 in overtime, Michigan over Bama in last year's Rose Bowl, scoring late to tie it, forcing overtime, and then, like I said, sending Nick Saban to the ESPN studios.
I'm going to stay in the Rose Bowl. There are those that would tell you this is the greatest college football game ever played. 2006, Texas 41, USC 38. Vince Young walks it off. And I mean, I don't have the depth of knowledge to tell you if it's the greatest college football game ever played, but it was
Greatest one I've seen.
But it was an awfully dang good one.
Greatest one I've seen, and given the stakes, given the pageantry, given the players.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not even
everything.
sure it would have hit the same if it hadn't been the Rose Bowl, to be honest.
Unbelievable game, and just like you said, the finish alone.
Vince Young standing there in the end zone with the confetti falling and all that. I mean, that image right there is just plumb stupid, you know? Yeah.
And that was when USC is at the peak of their powers.
Oh, yeah.
And a lot of folks became Texas fans that night to cheer against USC. And that was one of the all-timers. That is a great selection. And like I said, if we had a list, to your point, of just greatest college football games, that's got to be on a top 5 selection there at some point.
You're number 4, Mr. Neely.
Up next, this one comes in a losing effort, but dial it back to 2000, the Sugar Bowl. A gentleman by the name of Mike Vick. Man, they were close, so close to knocking off Florida State. They lose 46-29, but they led that game going into the fourth quarter, and Vick was doing everything. He was running, he was throwing, he was running some more, he was throwing again, and Virginia Tech really probably had no business being there, except that they had a generational player at quarterback and nearly pulled it off in the 2000 Sugar Bowl, which has got to go down as one of my top 5.
Man, I will tell you, I mean, obviously he's kind of had a star-crossed, to say the least, career, but on the field, generational talent.
Ain't no doubt.
I mean, there's no way around it. You got to give that man his due right there. If you hadn't seen Michael Vick, go on YouTube for that too. Yeah. My number 4, Deshaun Watson has caught a lot of grief from these airwaves, but that 2017 college football playoff championship game that he won against Alabama, he was really at the top of his game. And Clemson 35, Alabama 31. I'm no Clemson apologist, but Deshaun Watson at that time and place was as good as it gets. And, you know, Alabama had just beaten them the year before in the national championship game. So
epic run between those two teams.
No doubt. Yeah. That's my number 4.
That is a good one. That is the famous game my DirecTV went out, and I had to watch that game on the coaches feed, which I didn't know was a thing, but it was awesome. They had Dino Babbers. They had all kinds of coaches breaking down the game, which was great, but the screen itself was like this big. That was the only ESPN channel I got on my DirecTV that night, and I canceled it the next day. But that's a different story for a different day. Last one up for me real quick. This one's near and dear to my heart. Lived with a couple of these guys that won that game that year. 2009 MTSU New Orleans Bowl, winning over Southern Miss. Some know it as the Dwight Dasher game, where he just absolutely went bonkers. It's a game, to your point earlier, not necessarily the greatest game or the greatest teams, but it meant a lot to me. It meant a lot to the Blue Raiders. I believe it was their first major bowl win for sure. Knocking off Southern Miss in 2009.
That was huge in the New Orleans Bowl, right?
Yep.
Yeah. Dwight Dasher. 5th and final pick, 2018 national championship game. Alabama 26, Georgia 23. Tua's coming out party right there, replacing Jalen Hurts in the second half. What was it? Second and 25. Drops a dime for the walk-off game winner. Great stuff there. That's going to do it for Top 5 Tuesday. Again, brought to you by Mid-South 5 Fitness. 2 great locations, one in Franklin, one in Columbia. Find Dallas Steel at Steel Athletes, STEEL athletes.com. That's going to do it for Main Street Sports today, presented by the Tennessee Orthopedic Alliance of Columbia. We'll see y'all at 2 o'clock tomorrow.